This is going to be a slightly less focused video than normal, but I feel this needs to be said. Someone kill Ketus. He needs to go. Just take him out back and, you know, strangle him. To death. Ketus Emberclaw Familiar is a 1/1 legendary elemental lizard for 2 that says, whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent. This is notably not commander damage, but that doesn't matter, because the only difference between lethal commander damage and lethal damage is a 5-cost enchantment worth less than $1. Red aggro is notoriously bad in EDH because it's balanced around a game where you have to deal 20 damage to win, and EDH has a 120 all round. Ketus turns that 120 into 40, which is much more achievable, especially when most decks start actually doing stuff on turn 4, which is a turn after the average standard red deck has either won or conceded. I have won multiple games playing mono red aggro where someone removing this lizard would have stopped me entirely. Ketus dies to literally any amount of damage and has no protection. If you have removal and nobody is about to win the game, you should probably get rid of him, especially if the person playing him also has their commander on board. This is a card I would say is definitely worth the $5-ish asking price. Ketus wins games. Let me just move the little guy over a bit so you can actually see the numbers. Next up on creatures you should probably remove is Arcam, a 1/2 wizard for 4 that puts an instant or sorcery from your graveyard into your hand when it enters the battlefield. Also note, any other card with this effect. There are several. Now you might be thinking, this card's effect triggers when it enters the battlefield. Surely removing it isn't worth spending my only removal in hand. And you might be right, but in what world is someone running this card without any kind of copy or blink effects? Wizards has printed so many cards that get you an additional ETB with Arcam, and you only need one of them to start chaining ETB triggers and as much storm count as mana can buy. Now, am I biased because I do this? Absolutely. If you can, counterspell this card. The moment it hits the field, it might already be too late. For green, I'm putting a highlight on Scoot Swarm, which, just like the other two, is a creature you should probably remove as soon as possible. If its controller has 6 or more lands, it's already too late. People know that Scoot Swarm is strong, and so I do see a lot of people spend their removal on it, but I think anyone who's hesitant to spend a Swords to Plowshares on it should think about what Scoot Swarm is actually doing. Because most of the time, I just see people remove it because it's a bug that makes more bugs. Craterhoof, or any overrun effect really, into a board of 20 or so bugs from Scoot Swarm will end the game. You know how many turns it takes to get that many if the player gets 1 land every turn and no more than 1 land every turn? 7. If you drop Scoot Swarm turn 3, you can have 35 bugs on the board on turn 10. And most green decks are going to be able to get that even faster with ramp cards like Cultivate and 3 Visits. When you see Scoot Swarm hit the field, you might be as few as 3 or 4 turns away from the end of the game. Visceros here is another notorious card for how insanely strong it is, but chances are you've never seen what it can do in the right deck. I had a game where one of my friends used Xanathar to play the top card of my library because he thought it was funny, and he was about to win the game that turn. The card he played was Darkest Hour, a notable combo piece in my Teysa Orzhov Scion deck. He didn't realize that I could sacrifice my creatures to Visceros here at instant speed for free to win the game on the spot. Being able to sacrifice creatures at instant speed indefinitely for nothing would be a strong effect on its own, kinda like how Dredge will always be broken regardless of what it's printed on, and being able to scry 1 each time with the right board setup can easily allow you to snowball ahead by guaranteeing useful card draws. That and Visceros here costs 1 mana. 1. Weird thing is, I rarely see Visceros here get hit by removal, even though it's far and away the more dangerous half of a Blood Artist infinite combo. If you already have the ability to get infinite sacrifice triggers, you can just fish up a Blood Artist with the infinite scry 1s and put it in your hand with any form of card draw. Lastly, a card that used to be way more of a staple than it is in white decks now, I think people forget how strong Mentor of the Meek really is. 1 mana for a card is absolutely worth it, and in a deck making 3 to 4 tokens every turn can catapult a player into an insane advantage. That's half of Skull Clamp, a card that I'm sure I don't have to explain the strength of. White has a few decent value engines, but most of them are either vaguely stacks flavored and therefore a removal magnet like Esper Sentinel, or they're distinctly group hug cards and not really favorable to remove, even though you should probably get rid of them. Video on that someday. Saram is there too, but I feel like people actually tend to get rid of Saram because he's obviously an insanely strong value engine. Mentor of the Meek is just an absolutely insane card that people ignore because of the 1 mana cost per card, which is still a really decent exchange. Honestly, pretty much any strong value engine probably warrants a response from removal, even those that don't draw the caster cards. Lotho and Tatiova are some great examples of cards that are incredibly strong if they don't get removed when they go down. You only really have to hit 2 draws off a 2 or 3 cost card before it's made its value back. Anything on top of that is just extra value. Cards like Phyrexian Arena are really only good if you let the player running them keep them on the field for longer than they should be able to. I disagree with the sentiment that these cards are bad on later turns in the game. I think they can still significantly break parity near the tail end of a long game in the right deck. If you're playing Control, having one more counterspell in your hand can be the difference between winning and losing a game. I hope this video helped at least a little bit. I mostly made it because it's part of an ongoing discussion in my play group, one that I ultimately feel more groups need to have. In your commander pod, there might be cards that warrant more removal than others because they take advantage of a blind spot in the general group philosophy. In the group that I play with, none of us play that many stacks pieces, and as such, decks that cast a lot of spells, such as Storm or even the Cheerios deck from my last video, tend to run away with the game. When the topic of decks was brought up, another player said that they thought my Cheerios deck was around an 8 in power level, which told me that it was probably too strong a deck to bring to that table again. Not that the deck was that insanely good, it's a dubiously bracket 3 combo deck that dies with the commander, but that deck didn't fit well into the meta of the playgroup because the solutions are either A, play artifact or card draw hate, or B, remove the commander enough times that it's just not worth playing. So I encourage you to let me know in the comments what you find to be kill on sight game winning cards. That's all for today, thank you for watching.